I'm a strong believer that animation is the most limitless and expressive medium that an artist can use to express themselves. It removes the limitation like the need for realism physics, and it has the ability to bring any art style from anywhere and any time, and it can give it fluidity, choreography, it can give it life. Growing up, I loved Cartoon Network. It was filled with shows that pushed the visual medium in whimsical ways and didn't need to justify their art styles or themselves. And I think this fascination with cartoons also led me to discover the world of anime. And as a teenager, I just loved action. And I feel like anime scratched that itch that Western media couldn't quite reach. The choreography, the weight, the impact, the speed, the internal dialogue that just doesn't fit in live action. And while I still believe animation is one of the greatest art mediums we've ever created, one thing I have noticed over the years as a fan is the feeling of what could have been, especially as an anime fan. Like a new show gets announced, massive IP, the trailer looks dope, everyone gets hyped, and then little by little as you watch the show, like you notice the corners being cut, the still frames, slideshows, recycled shots, like entire episodes that exist for you to get to that 1 minute and a half of half decent animation. And like to be fair, that minute and a half, unreal. But nothing hurts more than seeing flashes of brilliance trapped in something that could have been so much more. And so you just keep crawling back. And then after a while, you kind of start to feel disrespected as an audience member, disappointed, and like used. And I do understand why this happens. Animation takes an enormous amount of time, money, and labor. So, from a business standpoint, it makes sense to invest in plastic styles, pipelines, and intellectual properties that already work. And I don't think it's because artists lack creativity. I think it's because modern production pipelines leave very little room for experimentation. And now, I don't want to turn this into me doom posting about the death of animation, because it's just not true. There's so much cool stuff being made today. But even these projects exist inside systems designed to appeal to massive audiences. Like once something works, the industry naturally wants to repeat it. And that's where I started asking myself something. Where does the little guy go? Where do the new artists experiment? And where do animators develop styles that haven't already been approved by a boardroom full of execs? Like I said, I don't think creativity is dying. I just think it's moved somewhere else. And I think it's moved into one of the strangest corners of modern art, the music video. And yes, technically it's advertising, but it's terrible advertising. MTV, the channel that built its entire identity around music videos, stopped airing them altogether. And so most people don't sit down and watch music anymore. They listen to it while commuting, studying, working out, playing a game. So from a purely business perspective, animated music videos don't make any sense. They're expensive, time consuming, nowhere near as effective as a 15-second TikTok clip. And so most of them just exist. So why do people make them? Why would an artist spend thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars animating visuals for something that people are already listening to? Because they want to see an idea come to life. Because an animator heard a song, imagined colors, movement, and emotion. Or because someone simply thought this would be cool. Now, why is all this expression allowed to exist? So if you compare animated music videos to modern television or film, they're weirdly free. Not completely, money still matters, but they're freer. They don't need to keep audiences watching. They don't need to maintain consistency. They don't need to set up future seasons, appeal to large demographics. Because of that, they can afford to take risks. One of the freedoms it creates is the ability to experiment. And if you really think about what experimenting is, it's just failing with permission. And because these aren't multi-million dollar projects that need to minimize risk, music videos are one of the few places where animation is still allowed to fail. It gives them permission to be strange, have no clear story. And because they're so short, it lets them go all in, like on style, atmosphere, symbolism. And what would normally alienate viewers from their favorite franchise suddenly becomes the entire appeal of watching them in the first place. Now, while animated music videos are free from a lot of commercial obligations, they still have boundaries. They're free, but not directionless. The music already exists. The rhythm, the tone, the emotion. So instead of creating something from nothing, the animators are actually responding to something, almost like having a conversation with the music. And so where one artist might hear loneliness, another one might hear anxiety, another heartbreak, someone freedom. And it's up to each one of those artists to express that in their own way. Because music videos refuse to explain themselves, you need to interpret what you just watched and meet the art halfway. Where modern media tries to extinguish ambiguity, handing you a neatly packaged story, sometimes even opinion, before you've even had a chance to think for yourself. But when something stays ambiguous, it opens up dialogue. With the internet, these videos actually open up a conversation between the animator and the audience. Suddenly, the comments are filled with people trying to understand what they just watched. For example, there's this charming stop motion style music video. Like, the lyrics are vague, the symbolism is even vaguer, but the comment section has just exploded from people all over the world explaining how that song made them feel and what they think the symbolism of the balloon was. This guy said he was crying on the train when he watched this. It's an English song, but the comments in Japanese. And I think that's just what makes animated music videos so fascinating. They don't just create art, they create conversations between music and the animation, the animator and the audience. And then the audience starts debating amongst themselves, sharing interpretations, reposting clips, making fan art, debating symbolism, discovering animators and musicians that they've never heard of. And I think that's what sent me down the rabbit hole in the first place. One day I hovered over a random animated music video and I couldn't even hear the song. And for whatever reason, I was just watching it, completely engrossed. And I got through the whole thing without even hearing the music. And then I went on it and the music was entirely different to what my interpretation of it, what could have been. And then I clicked on another and then another. And without realizing, I was researching who animated them, how these artists met musicians. And the more I looked, the less random it felt. These aren't just isolated videos, they're all connected. Artists collaborating with musicians, animators building their visual identities, audiences interpreting, sharing, remixing, everyone discovering each other. And like that happens online. It becomes this massive ecosystem. And so how do these videos actually get made? It's not through a single pipeline and not through a single type of creator either. Animated music videos exist in a kind of loose, internet-shaped network of collaboration. Sometimes it's a musician that reaches out to an artist that they like, or sometimes it's the other way around. An animator hears a track and builds an entire visual world around it. And often people just discover each other through the internet. Twitter threads, YouTube uploads, ArtStation portfolios, or just fan animation. And suddenly they get seen by the right person at the right time. And so it's not just a studio assigning roles from the top down, like it's connection based, almost accidental, but built through visibility and taste and timing. Once these videos are uploaded, they don't just sit there as finished products. They start moving through communities. They get clipped, remixed, discussed, misinterpreted, reinterpreted. What looks like a collection of random, disconnected projects is actually something way more fluid. Like it's a system built out of collaboration, discovery, cross-cultural exchange. Like it's not a studio and it's not a franchise, but it's an ecosystem shaped by the people of the internet. And so, especially in a time when studios keep repeating the same predictable formulas, and when the internet is often described as getting quieter, more automated, less human, there might be some truth to that, but I also think that there's more life than we give it credit for. So if you're ever looking for a bit more creativity, Maybe it's hidden inside a 3-minute music video that you almost didn't click on.